Hello, my most amazing art students. Well, last week we discussed all about sculpture and we learned about the Apollo Belvedere and the Discobolus and Greek and Rome's infatuation with, athleticism, and that's why they had the Olympics, and that they were so impressed with the way that the body was formed, and they had these artists that sculpted out of stone. But today we are going to create a sculpture with something that hopefully all of you guys have at home, toilet paper and water. And I sculpted this bird. It's not quite dry yet, and I'm going to go ahead and recreate a similar bird, hopefully. And next week we will go ahead and add details and paint. Okay, so I'm going to set that to the side. And the first thing that you're going to do, if you have a form that has some substance to it, like there's a body on this bird and the head, I actually attached the head. You can kind of see where I have a little patch there. You want to start with a dry ball of tissue. Okay, and about the size that you want the body to be. Okay, and I guess you could simplify the bird and make it just one part, but I did want to have like a different head shape. And then you're going to wet your toilet paper and just form that body. You don't want to ball it all up into one big ball of tissue paper, because then it's just going to be a big wad. You do want to have that dry ball in there and then add sheets. And this is obviously too wet here because it'll start falling apart. Some of you guys might have better toilet paper than what I have at home, and it might hold up better. You just kind of have to play around with the type that you have and see what works best. You do want to only try to add one sheet at a time. You can see that this is falling apart here, so I'm going to add a little bit of water. This is all about experimentation and seeing what works, because before today I had never made a sculpture out of toilet paper, and I did have to play around with it and then see when you get stringy pieces like that won't kind of come apart and be your friend. You need to, I just pull those off and put them to the side, because I do want it to add on and form nicely for my sculpture. Like I said, water is all you need to kind of get that to stick together. And this bird, maybe I'll make the tail thinner than the other bird's tail. I was thinking that could be a good counterbalance for my sculpture. And then I did try this out too, where I added water to the sheet instead of dunking it, and that seemed to work pretty well as well. Like I said, trial and error. I have a weak point right here, so I need to add, and I did sop up the water off the table. You don't want it to get super wet, because if it gets super wet, you're just going to have a soggy mess. Okay? And you know how birds' tail feathers, they kind of overlap sometimes? Maybe that's the look I'm... And you don't have to make a bird. You guys can make whatever you want to make. It is up to you. I will post a video of a lady. She's making food, a burger, I think, which is pretty cool. So that's about good for my body. And I'm going to go ahead and get another smaller ball of tissue and kind of see, that's probably a little bit too big for the head. Kind of see how that head will look, and then go ahead and do the same thing with that. and add the wet toilet paper to, and then I'll show you how to attach those two. And the water that you already have on there can help you to form it. There's a nice head. And then what you're going to want to do to attach that is get your wet strip and lay it between the two pieces. And then I'm just going to tear that off. Oh, there goes his head. Maybe this will be a duck. Who knows? And the same principle, I just noticed my computer is getting low on battery. And my charger is not plugging into it right now. So I'm going to try to rush through this video to give you guys the basics. But you want to attach on all sides, not just the top. This bottom part needs to be attached as well. I'm going to go ahead and add some water just like that. And then I'm going to fold that back over and then squeeze it together. But I can see that we need a little piece right there. The nice thing about toilet paper is that it does tear so nicely. You can see that we have a weak point right there. So, like I said, I just used trial and error when I made this. When I made mine, you guys can do the same. Experiment with it. Have fun. Figure out what you want to make with your sculpture. I'm going to add this little piece in here. My poor bird's got a weak neck here. And I don't even know if I'm in frame when I'm doing that. You guys, I'm so sorry. Trying to do it all down. Like literally the camera is in front of my face, so I'm trying to look over it to see what I'm doing. And I'm probably adding too much water at this point. And there we go. That's kind of how I added like a little scarf to my last bird. I'm going to build up the body just a little bit because its head is quite large. And I don't want to add too much more water because there's a lot in this already, I can tell. Alright, and then I'm going to sculpt, use my fingers to create a little beak. I can tell it needs more layers. Once you put a couple of wet layers on, you can try to add some dry layers to soak up the wet so that you don't end up with too much water. Use your finger dipped in to kind of, there we go, it's getting better. Right here, right on this side, it needs some more. So I hope you guys get the idea of this attaching and creating. And then if you do get a little bit too much water in there, you can squeeze your, hopefully, it won't ruin it because you can reshape it again. But I do want my bird to sit up when it's like this, and it feels like it's a little squinchy right here in the middle. Is that a word? Squinchy? I don't know. Needs his beak squinched. Needs a neck right there. And see, I'm not loving the way that the tail, even though I know that there are feathers that overlap like that, I'm not loving it. I feel like it's just not how I expect a bird's tail to look, even though it's probably more accurate than not. So I'm going to create a little fanned out tail just because I can't not. That's just aesthetically how I like to see it, okay? And bend him up and give him a little where his tail comes. And that's looking better to me. And he's sitting up. Okay, its tail might be a little bit on the big side here. Flatten that out. There we go. Okay, so that's that. And then to do a wing, what I kind of did with the wing, and this goes for anything that you want to add on to like a main sculpture, is I made the tissue paper into this shape that I kind of wanted to see the wing. And then I went ahead and added some bulk right there. And then I just lapped it over itself, overlapped it on itself. And as you notice, it just came right off. You're going to have to do that same trick of patching, just like that, patching the pieces to one another. Okay? So that it has an attachment point, just like that. And you can see I went in and kind of created a better joint for that so it wouldn't be so obvious. Just use little TP patches right there for strength in your joints, because when you go to paint it next week, we want really strong joints. Again, this bird's head is quite large for his tiny little body. Maybe he's just a very smart bird. I'm going to add a little bit more to this wing. Oh, 7% battery life. Let's get on with it, Mrs. Buck. So, the water really helps you mold the toilet paper, but it also makes it weaker. So, be careful how much water you add, and make sure you add that patching so that it holds the pieces together. Okay? There's one wing. This will be my other wing on this side. Maybe this one's coming up in the air. That's the other nice thing about it, is that you can get it to kind of do acrobatics for you, because it's light. So it'll, maybe this bird's flying through the air. He's being very aerodynamic. And I need my patches on the bottom, not just the top. And then I smoothed out all my like rough edges that I had. This wing is very flopsy. He needs more bulk to it. I'm making a mess. Look how much longer this wing is too. We don't want that to be so much longer than our first wing. So in order to fix that, I'm just going to fold it